Hello everybody, it's Toofty here, and I'm back with another 10 wholesome and juicy tips to grace your ears. Another guide to help you get by in the world of TF2. Let us crack on. Tip number 1. When you win a round of TF2, you get 15 sweet seconds of pure bliss where the enemy team is at your every whim and you can murder them as you please. This is known as the humiliation period, and aside from the crits, you also receive a 10% speed boost and the losing team moves 10% slower. During this period, the enemy team will be fleeing and cowering, so be sure to make full use of this time to murder as many of them as possible. Everybody knows that murdering during this humiliation time is the honourable and courageous and noble thing to do. It is widely known that murdering helpless victims is the main reason anyone plays TF2. Be sure to be wary though. Some players may attempt to use this time to occasionally taunt, interact with others, or generally mess about. Be sure to crush these weak-minded folk as quickly as possible. It may seem at first glance that it would be funny to join in on a quick dance, or simply stop to enjoy a taunting enemy before murdering them, but no. Murder is the only respectable way to end a TF2 game, and it must be done as quickly and brutally as possible. Tip number 2. As an engineer, it's important to support your team at all times and ensure that you're contributing to the game at the best of your ability. The best way to do this is to build a sentry gun near to your spawn exit. By protecting your spawn, you allow your team to safely leave the room of infinite health and ammo, so that they can make their way to the front lines where the actual battle is taking place. Take note though, in some game modes the spawn position can move as the game progresses. If the spawn location moves, be sure to keep your buildings in their original locations, because moving them can be very time consuming. Tip number 3. Going medic in TF2 can sometimes feel like a thankless task, where you have to run around after others, keeping them topped up, all the while they're getting the satisfaction and the reward of those sweet frags. For this reason, medics in TF2 can be quite hard to come by, and so when you see one, make sure you immediately start hurling abuse at them.
Oh, you're such a bad medic.
You must treat them like trash. Spam E, and if for 1 second they do not heal you the moment you require their attention, make sure you explain to them how awful they are at playing the class. Medics are entirely at your disposal and should ideally not be treated like human beings. And if anyone dares to suggest that you could possibly go medic, then simply laugh in their face, because you are a god at this game who will destroy the entire enemy team if the medic will only follow you around and pocket you like they should be. You are too valuable as a sniper along with the 7 others playing this class to play a peasant like the medic.
Medic, you fatty. Oh, honestly?
You're a shit medic.
Fuck's your problem, dude? You have 5 points. What are you talking about? I wouldn't heal you either. 5 goddamn points. What are you bitching about, huh? More points and you get more heals.
Yeah, I have 5 points, but if you think I bet, then go. Come, Bobby.
Tip number 4. There lives within all gamers an inexplicable, intrinsic urge to, at every opportunity, push players off ledges. If you see a friendly player on a ledge, be sure to follow this urge and slowly but surely shove them, prod them, boop them, whatever you need to do. Make them fall gently off that ledge to their death. This may seem like all fun and games at first, but in reality, pushing teammates around can be a very useful game mechanic. Take this example on Enclosure. This engineer is clearly struggling to find his W key, and so, being the selfless team player that I am, I decide to immediately go to his assistance and help him out of spawn. This can be a little time consuming, but I can assure you it's always worth the effort. This game mechanic is extremely underutilized and very few people know how to properly make use of it. So please spread this knowledge far and wide to your fellow gamers to help educate the community. Tip number 5. The engineer always does his best to get those teleporters up for his team, but sometimes there will be periods of the game where the exit for some reason has not been built yet. In these instances, the best course of action is of course to stand directly on top of the teleporter and stare down at it longingly, waiting patiently for it to be completed. This tip applies to whatever class you happen to be playing, even if you're playing the ridiculously fast scout, who you may think, with his quick movement speed, could get to the front lines just by walking there. No, you're better off just standing still and staring down at the teleporter entrance, hoping for it to be built within the next 5 to 10 minutes. Tip number 6. Ubers are one of the most important aspects of a TF2 game, more so in competitive gameplay, but they are still game-changing in the casual game. For this reason, be sure to make good use of them, ensuring they are as efficient and effective as possible. You may, for example, choose to Uber just before the round starts. Be sure to time it so the Uber is completely run out by the time the spawn doors open, as you wouldn't want to give your team an unfair advantage. You may also want to apply your Uber to some taunting friendlies, or perhaps just stand in front of an enemy and stare into their eyes whilst invulnerable to intimidate them. Another great way to make good use of an Uber is to quickly swap targets midway through the Uber. This is sometimes referred to as flashing. This can be a very useful aspect in casual games where once your pocket is Ubered, they will very likely think that they have the full 8 seconds and go extremely deep into the enemy lines, at which point you can switch targets onto another player and watch them immediately explode. Tip number 7. Communication in TF2 is key. Be sure to help your fellow teammates by offering guidance and instructions. Valve has fortunately supplied us with a number of great voice commands that are easy to access by using the Z, X and C keys. One voice command that every TF2 gamer should be aware of is the "Hello fine teammate, we could do with a jolly good dispenser here please if you wouldn't mind" voice line. This line helps remind the engineer class that they should use the dispenser, which they would have very much likely have forgotten all about if it wasn't for your very friendly reminder. Scout and Heavy are particularly well equipped at telling the engineer about their dispensers, but any class will of course suffice. All you need to do is run into a random location on the map and then press X followed by the number 4. You may need to press this combination several times to ensure the message is received loud and clear. I recommend somewhere in the region of 3,000 to 4,000 times. You may also want to consider creating a bind for this to make the process even easier. Tip number 8. Some props and corners within TF2 maps can provide the ideal hiding places for all of your sneaky needs. If you're looking to ambush an enemy or just need some alone time, seek out one of these locations and crouch to ensure you're maximizing your hiding potential. A scout can be a great option when hiding because of his smaller body size, and feel free to choose a location completely removed from the fight to give you maximum privacy. Remember, it's important to have time to reflect on all your life choices in the middle of a video game. Tip number 9. One of the most important factors influencing your TF2 gameplay is understanding team composition. It's very easy to overlook, but generally speaking, the rule of thumb is that in your team, you want as little variety as possible. Choose a class early on and then proceed to encourage the rest of your entire team to pick that class as well. This can work particularly well with Spy and Sniper, always a strong choice, but here I've found a great example that is slightly less common. In this payload game, a team member took the initiative to choose heavy. And so, naturally, the logical team composition should be approximately 9 heavies and perhaps 3 medics. Fortunately, there is literally no way to defeat this composition, as Valve has not designed any classes that count as the heavy. Also, this makes for a massively enjoyable game for both parties. As we know, heavy is already the most enjoyable class with a hugely diverse and involved gameplay experience where you have to hold down a direction button and occasionally fire at the same time. But on payload, you don't even have to press the W, as you can use the cart to push yourself around the entire map as you hold down that left button. Tip number 10. As we have discussed earlier, it's paramount to understand that communication is invaluable to your gameplay. To take your gaming experience to the next level in TF2, you'll have to go beyond the voice commands that are provided and use your trusted microphone. Unfortunately, not everyone has a microphone, so in this case, any kitchen implement or food item will do. Potatoes and toasters are common options that suit the job perfectly. And as we all know, there is no discernible difference in the audio quality between this kind of item and an expensive microphone.
It's Brian. It's Brian.
It's a bit of a trade secret actually. Take your Soni C800G PAC microphone system, approximately $10,000, and take a potato. $1. They do the exact same thing, so why waste your money? You do the maths. I've personally found that kettles, soup spoons, turnips and dishwashers can also all do the same job very well. But feel free to get experimental and try whatever you have to hand. It's also important to, of course, enunciate slowly and clearly as you are communicating to your team. Or, another fine option, why not sing a merry little song down the microphone to raise your team morale?
On a lonely night was a blinding light. 100 leaders to be born. And do I know since you were
Ooh, a cheeky little bonus tip. Using the Boston Basher as a scout, you can team up with a medic and cause self-damage to quickly build an Uber when there are no other injured teammates around. Why not join a 2-fort server and stand in spawn doing this for the entire duration of the game? Good times. I do hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you want to share any of your own wholesome tips to the TF2 community, please feel free to type them in the comments section below, and I will certainly pretend to read them all. God bless, cheerio, all the best. Your big boy Toofty here.
leaders to be born. And do I know since you've awakened her again, she depends on you. She depends on you. She called on. I never speak of this again. We depend on you. We depend on you.